Now let's turn to Myanmar. It has been in a state of civil war for months. On one side is a military junta, on the other are various anti-junta groups, at least 10 of them. They have various motivations and allegiances, but one thing in common. They all want to defeat Myanmar's military junta. And today they faced a setback. The junta secured a small victory. They recaptured a town they had recently lost. It's called Myawaddy, located at the Myanmar-Thailand border. It's a crucial trade hub, this town, connecting Thailand to southern Myanmar. Myawaddy was captured by anti-junta forces on the 10th of April by a group called the Karen National Liberation Army. Now, this is one of the 10-odd anti-junta factions. But now this group has been forced to retreat. So does this mean that the junta is winning? Will they solidify their grip on the country? Not really, because when you look at the big picture, this looks like a small win. Let me explain. The junta grabbed power in the year 2021 by ousting the democratically elected government of Myanmar, and since then the junta has been in charge, at least in the central provinces, the big cities. But they never really controlled the entire country, even in 2021. Let me show you this map. These are the regions and states of Myanmar. The ones in blue are home to the majority population, the Bamar people. They make up almost 70% of Myanmar's population. The blue regions are Bamar majority areas, and that is where the junta exercises most control, its power base. Now look at the other areas. In red, these parts of Myanmar are home to ethnic minorities. The states are even named after the minority communities, like Rakhine and Chin on the west, Kachin up north, Shan, Kain and Kaya in the east, and Mon down south. Now these 7 states are home to 7 different minority communities, and the junta has always struggled to control them. The various ethnic groups began the present phase of resistance. Hostilities broke out in the Shan state. They began on the 27th of October last year. 3 minority groups rose up against the junta, and they pushed the military out of some strategic enclaves at the Myanmar-China border. The junta was pushed out. Their success started a chain reaction. Other ethnic minority groups joined the fighting. Each group has its own militia, and they've been fighting in their home state since. These militias are nominally aligned, but it's not some grand liberation army. Everyone has their own agenda. What brings them together is just one thing, a common enemy, and that is the Myanmar junta. Now, since the fighting began in October, the junta has been facing enemies on all sides, in all these ethnically diverse states. But that's not all. They're also being challenged in the Bamar heartland. Inside their power base, they're facing challenges not by minorities, but by the majority Bamar people. People who want a return of democracy, forces aligned with the previous government. They call themselves the People's Defense Force. So to recap, Myanmar's 7 ethnic minority-run states are up in arms, and people loyal to the ousted democratic government are also fighting. They're all trying to defeat the junta, which is why the military is on the back foot. Which is also why recapturing one town, however important, is just a small victory. The junta is still surrounded. A victory on one side is usually followed by a loss on the other, which happened today as well. The junta lost another outpost in the north, in the Kachin state. So they're being pushed back into their strongholds. They've lost control of the border regions. And that is the present situation. That is the big picture in Myanmar. The question is, what happens next? Where does Myanmar go from here? The ethnic minority states are in disarray. About 3 million people have been displaced because of the fighting. Thousands have fled to neighboring countries. Those left behind live in makeshift camps with no proper food, health care, or educational services. If the junta wins, will it look after all these people? Will it protect the Bamar people who fought against it? If not, then Myanmar's future looks bleak, like a never-ending cycle of revenge.